there you have it, folks. My Licorice is alive with Airegin. That's the Sonny Rollins hard bop classic that was originally recorded with Miles Davis and Sonny Rollins in the combination known as the Miles Davis Quintet in 1954. Guitar great Grant Green did a version of Airegin, as did Art Pepper in his classic album Pepper Plus 11, which offers up a very cool combination of the hard bop feel in a big band setting. Check it out. Now, Sonny Rollins, he was a true colossus on the saxophone, and he has been dealing and dishing in jazz since the late 40s, and as of this very precarious moment, he is indubitably the last man standing in the greatest generation in jazz. So hats off to Sonny, and I hope you dug my little take on Airegin, which is Nigeria spelled backwards for whatever that is worth. Okay, welcome folks to Rebel Without Applause. As always, coming to you from my nutshell of infinite space, that being my movie studio apartment right here in the Wood of the Holly, under the sign and overlooking the enchanted land of law. And I am now finally emerging out of the suspended alternate imaginary universe that for me was Othello, the Moor of Venice. For 8 weeks, if you've been hanging with me, I submerged myself in Shakespeare's masterfully malevolent meditation on love and jealousy, race and gender, which I do so urge you to check out. Click on in and take the deep dive. I think you'll dig. And upon, looking back on my little journey, what struck me most as I traveled into the heart of darkness that is Othello was not so much the interracial relationship between Desdemona and the Moor, or the jealousy that consumes their love and lives, or, for that matter, the fiendishly brilliant machinations of honest Iago. What hit me hardest was the absolute obedience that was demanded of all the female characters, that being Desdemona, Othello's wife, Emilia, Iago's wife and Desdemona's mistress, and Bianca, Cassio's mistress. Indeed, for these three women, their fealty to their male overlords seemed to me to be at the very core of the tragedy. All the women live, for better or worse, under the fierce tyranny of paternity, which really only one character, Emilia, Desdemona's mistress and Iago's unhappy wife, it's only Emilia who's able to confront and defy that paternal tyranny, and that defiance at long last costs her life. Wow. You want to learn about #MeToo trauma? It's all there in Othello, the Moor of Venice, which was written on or about the year 1603. Talk about being ahead of your time. The play may not be contemporary, but it is about as modern as you can get. So for me, for 2 months, I was in a cave, oblivious to the tempests and turmoil that crowd our current political moment. The billionaire brat boy, by that I mean the PVP, that being Putin's vice president, was summarily evicted from the sacred space that is my consciousness, and I used that space to take an imaginary trip into the mind and imagination of the bard. So if you get a chance, please give my audio movie of Othello a listen. It exists in the preceding 5 episodes of this podcast. That's 12 through 16 of Season 2 on your podcast dial. Each episode corresponds to an act of the play, and each episode, as always, opens with a jazz offering and my commentary before my performance begins. And for those uninitiated into the world of Will, my suggestion is to pre-read the play or follow along with the text. And for a text, my recommendation is the Folger edition, which offers really valuable notes which add context and clarity to a world which can, to the uninitiated, seem arcane and distant to our own. And for those that have studied or seen the play, just pop in those earbuds and join the rides. By the way, movie-wise, my 2 favorite Othello movies are firstly Orson Welles' version, which is visually magnificent. It really takes you back to medieval Venice and then on to the outpost of empire that is Cyprus. And it feels real. It feels authentic. It's a kind of mini masterpiece of Shakespeare and cinema. It feels like a true collaboration between Orson Welles and William Shakespeare for the movies. And then there's the Olivier version with Peter Finch's Iago, which is more theatrical in its presentation. It's really an opening up of the Royal Shakespeare stage production. However, while it does not maybe sit at the pinnacle of Shakespearean cinema, and if you want to look for great Shakespearean cinema, I recommend Olivier's Hamlet and also Olivier's Henry V, which is, I think, one of the greatest movies of all time. But that's another story. In the Royal Shakespeare stage production, which was filmed, I really believe Olivier is brilliant beyond belief as Othello. Finch, as Iago for my taste, a little prodding, but both movies are really mind-blowers. And both sadly suffer, I think, because the character that really drives the play, Iago, lives in the shadow of their massively charismatic stars, that being, of course, Laurence Olivier and Orson Welles, respectively. Now, my audio version does not suffer for that reason because, well, I play both the parts, Othello, Iago, and for that matter, Cassio and Desdemona and Emilia and Bianca and Lodovico and all the characters that swarm into Shakespeare's Othello universe. I do my best to inhabit, so you don't have that problem that you have in the others. But before you hunt down those movies, first check out my version. I'm really proud of it, and I think you'll dig it. I hope, at least. Okay, enough of that. So, what's new in my world? The gates are opened and events are flooding in fast. Yesterday was the 75th anniversary of D-Day, that most remarkable morning when the Allies assembled en masse and confronted the Germans on the beach of Normandy. I couldn't help but watch the billionaire brat boy plod through his lumbering speech and then continue on in a later portion of the broadcast to do his best to assault Nancy Pelosi. And I thought to myself, how fitting that we have such a heroic figure to commemorate such a monumental day. So for any future brat boy biographer, here's a title idea: A Profile in Bone Spurs. You can have it. Take it. It's yours. So, as part of my re-immersion, I'm back at Malibu riding waves. I'm on Tinder again. I'm back on Bumble. I'm trolling through Hinge. I'm out there looking for my future ex-girlfriend. I'm orbiting the Uberverse in my spaceship Subaru. Yep, I'm a pickup artist for Uber. It's so easy. You just put the U on the windshield and the L on your forehead, and bingo, you're in the gig economy. Who knew that so much innovation would offer up such fresh opportunities for exploitation? What else? Sports-wise, I'm catching up on the NBA Finals, watching the Dodgers destroy the National League, and oh my God, Bellinger and company look like they're headed to another October. Hopefully Dave Roberts has learned some lessons from the last two World Series. If not, I'll be here to remind him, even though I am sure he won't be listening. What else? Of course, I've reattached my MSNBC IV into my forearm, so Rachel and Lawrence and Chris and Ari are back flowing through my veins. I started reading the Mueller report, and let me say this, if you're looking for a fun, lighthearted, engaging read, I would not, I repeat not, recommend the Mueller report. Better to check out Mark Twain's Roughing It or A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. Much better reading. But I have to say this, one thing does ring clear with the report. Yes, Mueller offers up a very clear and concise depiction of a very rabid fox in a very crowded henhouse. And let me say this. A lot of the hens in that house are getting gobbled and regurgitated and then gobbled up again. There's a lot of blood and guts lying around the hen house or the White House or whatever you want to call it. All of which brings to mind, into the forefront of my consciousness, the central conundrum of the day that bedevils the hearts and minds of the progressive populace. And that is, to impeach or not to impeach? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the continued indignities and criminality of Putin's vice president, or by opposing Endem. Alas, to tar in the House, and then pray that the recalcitrant Republicans, those ass-kissing, boot-licking, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham-loving senatorial scoundrels will somehow, some way, discover the nobler nature of their inner angels and apply, as our core covenant, the Constitution demands, those feathers to that tar. To dispatch said brat boy down the perp walk of eternal oblivion, consign him to the dung heap of historical obscurity where he so deservedly belongs. Yes, to be sure, 'tis a consummation devoutly to be wished, to impeach, to convict, to tar, and then to feather, to reveal in all its evil and unvarnished glory for all and for all time the criminal consequence of truth. For who would bear the whips and scorns of collusion and corruption and obstruction, the proud man's perjury, the imbecilic bombast, the slings and arrows of myopic malevolence, the law's delay, the insolence of Sarah Sanders, but that the fear of some worser outcome, some impolitic reaction, some future electoral malfeasance makes us suffer those ills we know, rather than fly to others we know not of. Thus, politics makes cowards of us all in the native color of our core covenant. Those checks and balances handed to us from our fathers' founding are covered over with the pale cast of thought, rumination, and regret, and with this regard lose the name of desperately needed action. There you have it, folks, my little Hamletonian riff on the current social moment. And today, in contrast to my long-winded Othello adventures, I'm going to keep this missive short and bitter and sweet. And until next time, goodbye, adios, and adieu.